Inside.
Don't go to college, anyone.
That's what if you're still here listening to us, thank you. But the takeaway is don't go to college.
Spend $100,000 in 4 years not in college.
Yep.
That's it.
Thank you for listening.
Thank you for coming to our TED Talk.
Yeah.
What is going on, guys? Thank you so much for clicking on this video. Today I'm really excited because I actually got an awesome opportunity to interview two of the men of God that God has placed into my life. Talk to them a little bit about manhood, marriage, and just what it means to be a true man of God, and how the adolescent and teenage years have been misused ever since the 1940s. So I'm super excited to share this content with you guys. It is a longer video. I was going to break it up into 2 or 3 different parts, but I think that to get the whole message is better just to receive it all at once. So that's what we're going to do. Please try to stick all the way till the end. There's a lot of really good tidbits from both Anthony and Dustin all the way throughout the video. So please enjoy, please comment, please like, and let me know if this is a style of video that you would like to see in the future. Thanks so much again, and I hope you enjoy.
1, take it away.
Hello everyone, thank you for joining today's video. Today I'm going to be talking a little bit about biblical manhood, and I have some questions here for two men of God that are in my life. Here we have Dustin Rauser, who is one of the student pastors here at Morgan Hill Bible Church in Morgan Hill, California. And then we have Anthony Webb, who is one of, Anthony, what are you? I don't even know your title.
I am the director of junior high ministries.
The director
and young adults.
Of junior high and young adults, Anthony Webb. Dustin is currently at the tail end of a 2-year-long season of singleness, where he didn't date and he was focusing on becoming all that God has created him to be, and he is now in his first relationship since, correct? Mm-hmm. And Anthony has been happily married for 3 years? 4 years.
Going on 4.
Going on 4 years.
4 years.
So just so you guys have a background of who they are and their walk.
Really quick,
God.
do you want to look it up, and then if Emily's watching, we can just cut over.
No, because we were married.
Here.
We were married in 2016, 2020, past August. So we're working on our 4th year of marriage. So
Got it, okay.
next
3
August
completed for.
Yeah, next August will be our 5th year of marriage.
I'm over here just in case emergency meeting.
No, I appreciate it. I appreciate that. Hey, you want to make sure?
Yeah, that's funny.
I appreciate that. Way to look out.
We need to have the Among Us emergency meeting with a sound. Yeah.
I want to get little tracks.
I'll see if I can find one.
So I basically just have some questions that I'm going to ask them. The first round is just fire away yes or no questions. Anthony, what color is Dustin's shirt?
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you for your answer. And Dustin, what is your favorite constellation in the sky?
Definitely no.
Thank you for that. That's awesome. Great insight. I agree with both of you on that.
It's going to be easier than I thought.
Right. So, first question is for both of you. These are all kind of just for both of you. How do you define biblical manhood, and what does being a man of God truly mean?
I should have studied before this.
Yes.
Yeah.
Next question, please.
These are no longer yes or no.
Okay. Good clarification.
Yeah.
All right, can you repeat it one more time?
Yes. How do you define biblical manhood, and what does being a man of God truly mean?
Oof. That's a big question. Dustin, why don't you go ahead and start us off here?
I was going to say, you sound like you. Anyway. Biblical manhood. I don't know how to, what even is, a one sentence. A man that is pursuing God, a man that is, following what God has for him in life. But I think the most important thing is constantly pursuing God, and pursuing God in everything he's doing, every facet of his life. So whether that's relationships, whether that's work, whether that's his personal life, he is glorifying God through all of those facets, and no matter what he's doing. Someone looks at him and goes, wow, I can see God through him. That would be my short answer.
Yeah. What is biblical manhood? I would go back to Genesis 1, and where God created man and woman in his image, but we're focusing on masculine traits, obviously. So it's being an image bearer of God and everything that means. Things like being good, proclaiming God, being a man of God, all of those things. And then in Genesis 2, he's given a task and authority to name all that kind of thing. So I think part of being a man is working, is doing something, whether it's working with your hands or working with your mind or computers or whatever it is. It's working, doing something, and then living in the authority that God's given you, to lead people, to help people, to love people, and to not necessarily rule in like a bad sense, like domineering over someone, but to have authority over things and to a certain extent people, but not in like a bad way, like leading people instead of
having the authority but not abusing the
yeah
authority.
Yeah, like the leadership in the best sense of the word.
Yeah.
And then there was a second part of that question. What was the second part of that question?
You kind of answered it. It's just, what does being a man of God truly mean?
I think being the image of God, living in the authority that God has given you, and leading people.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Very cool. Second question, branching off of that, we hear in the Bible when we're going through 1st and 2nd Kings about all these different kings, how old they were and what they did, if they did good or bad in the eyes of the Lord. And one of the youngest ones is Josiah, who was 8 years old when he became king. And I don't think that it's possible to be that young and have that much authority now. But do you think there's been a progressive degradation of the responsibility of young people? And do you believe that the teenager is a biblical principle or something that we've adopted as society?
That's a huge question.
I did my research before asking these questions.
People a lot smarter than, maybe not Dustin, but people a lot smarter than myself have
devoted their lives
and
books. Yeah.
whole PhD studies to essentially that question. So
and that person's us. So we're completely qualified for this.
We are. You can take what we're saying as basically gospel and canon.
Yeah.
So Dustin, kick us off, so that I have time to think.
All that being said,
I'm going to be the cannon fodder. Let Dustin throw up out there, and then now that I have my
I'll take this one. You take the next one.
Okay.
So what you're talking about is adolescence, and ever since essentially that was discovered or really kind of made known
in 1941 in an article written by the Washington Post, by the way.
Yeah, something like that.
Hey,
is that true?
No,
is that
the first time the first time teenager was a word ever written was in 1941.
Why is he asking us these questions?
He's actually about to dunk on us.
So pretty much
I'm not going to do that.
So pretty much since it was created apparently in 1941 by the Washington Post, adolescence has been ever expanding. It's gotten longer and longer and larger and larger.
Right.
And so in our current definition, adolescence pretty much starts in middle school and goes essentially to mid-20s right now.
25 if you're a guy.
Yeah. It's essentially till the brain is fully developed.
Right.
And so that's adolescence, and essentially in Western American culture, you're almost given a free ride to do whatever you want, no responsibilities, no repercussions, no nothing.
Right.
That is not good in any way, shape, or form. I mean, again, if we go back to Genesis, where I think we really get the very first definition of what is a man, we are supposed to work. We are supposed to be given responsibility. You know, in that one, it's responsibility to name things, to do work. We're supposed to be given responsibility. We grow. Our character grows when we're given a responsibility, when we're given challenges. I mean, we can dive fully into helicopter parenting, or even the worst, the style is snowplow parenting, where you don't prepare your child for the road, you prepare the road for your child. And so your child never faces difficulty in the adolescence. They never face adversity.
Right.
Therefore, they don't know how to deal with stress. They don't know how to deal with challenges. They don't know how to deal with real, actual life when it's hard and complicated. And so we give, American culture gives a free ride to adolescence. And there's no growth. It's basically them just making mistake after mistake after mistake and never either facing the consequences or never actually being given enough responsibility to learn. And I think that's hugely dangerous. When we look back in the past, I was looking up something the other day, and I think this was back in the 1700s, so almost 2,000 years after the Bible and all this stuff. You could be considered a man at 13. you're not considered a man. You know, some people not even a man after 23.
Yep.
And I think we're missing something now. You know, in our Western culture, I think 13 may be a little young, but you know, maybe that's just because we have a different idea of what it is. But I think we've failed generation after generation of men because we think they're too young and they're not. I lead middle schoolers, and I am constantly surprised on how much they actually truly understand, how much they actually gather just from watching the world, watching their parents, watching their friends, TV shows, movies, music, all that stuff. They know a whole lot more than we give them credit for. Things may be, we may need to break things down a little bit more for them than we would high schoolers or college age, but that doesn't mean they aren't understanding. Yeah. We don't need to dumb it down for them, we just need to break it down for them more. But they can handle so much more than we give them credit for, and I think we've done generation after generation a disservice because we haven't given them enough responsibility, enough work, enough stuff. Now, you know, I'm against child labor and all that stuff, but there is something to working, to showing up on time, to doing your homework, to do extracurricular activities and all those things, and I think we've given people in adolescence a free pass for far too long.
Amen.
I mean, yeah, I agree with pretty much everything you said. Yeah.
And it's hard to make a blanket rule because I believe each person is an individual, and some people can handle more and some people can't.
Right.
But I think that's as men, as parents, as leaders, as whatever, we need to have those personal relationships with students, with young men, and challenge them.
Yeah.
To step up into the image of God, into the authority that they've been given, and not shirk it off.
I think the example of this is way back when there was a coach and student problem or a coach and athlete problem. It wasn't the coach's fault. Like, the athlete needs to, figure it out. And nowadays, whenever like the athlete's not good, it's because my coach sucks. Or, it's because, you know what I mean? And it's, the blame is no longer on how can we as an individual better ourselves. It's, look what that person's doing to me. And I think the whole victim mentality that's kind of crept into our society has crept into adolescence. And, I'm not getting good grades because my teacher's bad. No, it's because you're not applying yourself and you're not studying. You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah.
So I completely agree with everything he said, and also to go into, I think, the whole victim mentality that we as a society have adopted has hurt us very deeply, and starting at adolescence. And instead of, hey, I'm going to figure this out and I can do this, it's, woe is me, look what the world has done to me.
Right.
The problem with the victimhood mentality is it's very similar to the snowball parenting in that if I'm always the victim, I never have to change.
Yeah.
And I think that's the worst thing that you could possibly do. I was taught at a young age the only things that we have control over are my own personal attitude, my own personal effort. Regardless of my situation, I always have control of my attitude and my effort, whether I'm the victim or I'm not. But a lot of times people say, hey, I'm the victim, so it's out of my hands. I have no control. They made me do this. They made me say this, that. Cool, then you never have to change. You never have to grow up. You never have to get beyond yourself. And that is extremely dangerous. Are there times and places where you are the victim? 100%. 100%. But not always, not all the time.
So do you think then, with the victim mentality coming into play, do you think that it's, and you both work with high schoolers and junior hires quite a bit, do you think that it's ever logical for someone who is not a man and not in the Word and not a biblical man to try and look for a mate, to try and date, to try and gain affirmation from another person in form of a relationship and stuff like that?
I mean, if you go into something with the wrong reasons, the likelihood of that thing ending up good is very low. And so if, for example, when I was when I was younger and like dating and stuff, I would go into relationships for the wrong reasons because I loved having just someone there. And so my relationships very early on was not, I was not in a place to get married, essentially. And so through those like long dating things, what was I doing? Like I was really just wasting both of our time. And so I think it was Anthony or one of you two at some point said, like, if you're not ready to get married, should you be dating? I think there is some truth to that. And we can go into the whole, like, whether or not you should date in high school or whatever. But
let's do that.
To an extent, I agree with the general principle of if you're not ready to get married, you shouldn't be dating. And I say that.
What does ready mean? Like own a home? Does it mean you're going to college? Does it mean that you're working for Starbucks? Like what does it mean to be ready to be married?
And I think that right there is the question, because could you make a career working at Starbucks? Yeah, if you get high enough in like certain management, whatever. And certain people, like, maybe it's not until you're ready to own a home, like here in California, or any of us can be ready to own a home anytime soon. No, it's super expensive. And so I think ready is a bit of a, like, what does ready mean? And that's maybe more of an individual, like, case-by-case scenario or, like, thing. But, yeah, sorry, you had something I could tell you wanted to say.
I'm just saying we'll never be able to afford a home unless California keeps burning and people keep moving away. And then at that point, we might be able to afford,
the
a 2 foot by 2 foot apartment.
Right.
As far as like knowing when you're ready to date or like knowing when you're ready to marriage, like there are certain landmarks. There are certain things that you should have. Like, oh, I'm ready to get married, but you don't have a job. Okay, you're probably not ready to get married. But like having a house, having an apartment, like in California, it's totally normal for 20-somethings to still be living with their parents. In Kansas, that's not as normal. But that's
shout out Kansas.
Whatever. Like a very Montana, where the moose outnumber people. I don't know if that's true, but I keep saying it is, so I think it's fact.
Are there
source
moose?
for that, please?
Yeah, I'm gonna look up this moose right now.
But like in different places economically, financially, like you're in different places. So like in California, like, oh, you gotta have your own home. It's almost impossible unless you win a lottery to be a 20-something and have your own house.
Right.
But there are other factors. I think the biggest one is, having a job, but that's kind of outside. The second one is being okay with yourself.
Yeah.
And I think that only truly comes with a relationship with Jesus. But other people can think they have. But I think being okay with yourself, being content with yourself, I think is a better way to put it. Hey, maybe, I'm not perfect. I have my flaws, but I'm okay. I'm in a constant progression of working myself. I'm in a constant progression of sanctification. I have a good, healthy relationship with Jesus. I'm connected with a church. There's people there who love me, who mentor me, who I'm discipling, who I'm serving, and doing all these things. Like I am a good, healthy person. Now I'm ready for another healthy person to enter into my life. If you enter into a relationship when you're not healthy and they're not healthy, that becomes an unhealthy relationship. Either if one or both of you, it can work, but not in a healthy way. I've been in enough relationships where I wasn't healthy or the other person wasn't healthy, and that just caused a huge amount of pain and sorrow. I've seen that with my friends where I know that they are not a complete person. They're not a healthy person for whatever reason. Maybe their relationship with God is suffering. Maybe they have other stuff that's suffering. But it won't work. And, back to dating for, I think junior hires dating is hilarious. But I don't think they should, but I find it hilarious when they do. And high schoolers, like, I'm a little bit more okay, but I always, anytime a high schooler is like, oh, I want to ask this girl out or this or that, or ask this boy out, then I'm okay, why? Do you think that they are marriage material? Because when you boil it down, people date for two reasons. Because marriage is the end goal or sex is the end goal. That's it. Oh, I'm dating for experience. Okay, you're dating for sex. Oh, hey, I'm just dating around. Okay, you're dating for sex. Or are you dating with the intention of this could be my future husband, this could be my future wife? If you're in high school and you feel like that is your goal, I would have some questions for you. But look, if you want to date in high school because that you're searching for your wife, okay, that's fine. Put up some boundaries, put up some guardrails for what you're doing and how you're doing it. But sure, I mean, I dated in high school, so I'd be a hypocrite to say, oh, you can't. I learned hugely valuable lessons. Like I was in a terrible relationship in high school. But I learned so much through that. It was a struggle. It was hard, but I learned so much through it about myself, about what I wanted, about what I want my future wife to be, that it was immensely valuable. It sucked, but without that experience, I wouldn't be the person I am today, nor would I have probably found my wife. So
two things. One, there are moose in Montana. Two, the moose population does not outnumber the human population.
Do you know how much area in Montana is populated? Like 2%. There could be so many moose in the mountains and the hills.
According to the website I looked at,
everyone knows moose migrate. It's right next to Canada. They could have moved north to the Canadian border.
Yeah, and then moose hang out
when the census was taken, and then moved back because
they knew it was coming.
Yeah. They don't want to be under government rule. I respect that.
Yeah, they don't want to be hunted, so they leave when they're being counted.
Yeah,
that makes
sense. Because if there's an overpopulation of moose, that means they get hunters more tags to control the population. Moose are smart, man. See how big they are? They got big brains. Big brain plays.
I had a comment on one of your comments, and now I don't remember what your comment was, so I forgot what my comment was.
That means I'm right. Was it dating, marriage, being a complete person?
I have a burning question.
Okay.
Right, what's your burning question?
A burning question. Last question of the day is. Congrats, we made it. I was looking at the divorce rates in America and in the world, and I was looking at the average age of marriage in the world and in America. And it's interesting that we see as the years of age are getting older, the divorce rate is getting higher. And so I know this is a very broad observation that can be generalized a lot of different ways, and this is one of them. But do you think that pushing marriage later in life is one of the causes for the increased percentage of divorce in America?
For that question, clarifying question, did you, in those statistics, was there a breakdown of those older people if it was their second plus marriage or not?
Older people meaning?
So, like, say the older people, so say 40 plus, how many of them was this their second marriage or their third marriage?
Got it. Okay. I think from my understanding it was just one, like this is their marriage, they were married at this age, and was it successful or not? And then a second marriage wasn't taken into account.
Gotcha.
Because they were already a statistic at that point.
I'd be curious about that, because in my own thought is if you've already been divorced once, essentially it'd be easier to get divorced again if you got married again.
Absolutely.
However, I don't know. That's a good question, and I don't know. Part of it is if it's your first marriage and you get married in your 40s, let's say, you've been single for, maybe off and on relationship, but you've essentially been single for 40 years.
Half your life.
That's a hard habit to break. Being single is very different than being in a committed cohabitation household.
Yeah.
It's extremely different. And you've built up 40 years of, I'm going to do this my way because this is the way I want to do it.
Yeah.
Those are hard, ingrained habits to break. And I think you can, with the help of God, break habits and stuff. But if there's no God, it'd be almost impossible to break some of those habits and things.
Right.
And so on that degree, I would definitely say there's an argument to getting married earlier. But I also think there's too early to get married. So it's a complicated question without looking at more statistics, more facts and stuff.
Your main thesis would be that when you get married younger, you are single for less time, therefore you are married for a longer proportion of your life, so your marriage will be, in theory, easier, or
So
you'll be used to it more rather than.
So, let's see if I can explain it this way. Being single, there's a lot more freedom. You can do what you want with your own time. If you want to go somewhere, if you want to eat somewhere, if you want to do this, do that, you can do it because no one's there. You live in your own house, you live in your own apartment. You're your master. You're your own master. Once you get into a relationship, you now give up some of those things because you're going on dates, doing this, but you still have a majority of your own freedom. As soon as you get married and you start cohabitating with somebody, now that person wants to spend time with you, and to a certain extent you should want to spend time with that person. But now that I'm married, I don't have as much freedom to hang out whenever and wherever with my friends, and I don't think that's a bad thing. It's just a thing. And if I was 24 when I got married, and so I had about 6 years of between 18 and 24 of singleness to do that whenever I wanted, wherever I wanted. If I'm 40, I would have had roughly 20 years of ingrained habits. I'm my own person. I'm going to do what I want, when I want, do all this. And you have somebody there. It's a whole lot harder to break those habits after 20 years than it is 6.
Right.
Because there's so much time. And, at that point, you may feel constrained. You may feel claustrophobic. You may feel like this person's smothering you or clingy. And you're like, no, they just want a normal relationship with somebody.
You're just not single anymore.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And does that make a little bit more sense?
That does, yeah. That helps, yeah.
I wouldn't say getting married younger is the reason for the higher divorce rate. It may be a product of each other.
You mean getting married older?
Yeah, sorry, getting married older. I think it may be they may be like correlated, but I don't think that's the main reason. I think people are getting married. What is the biblical picture that we are used for marriage? It's Christ and the church. And as people are moving farther and farther and farther away from what actual marriage is, and from what it was meant to be, and we can go into the whole like what love is and whether or not people getting married these days actually love each other or they're just infatuated with each other. I think that personally is more of a reason. But to go into the whole adolescence thing, you can tie it in. People are taking longer and longer and longer to grow up, and so therefore they're longer and longer until they're able to get married, and that's why the average age is now people get married at 25. Now, can you also tie in like economic things? Like, sure, people are wanting to get their career started first, and then they want to get married. And so a lot of people are getting out of college, getting 3 to 5 years of work under their belts, and then they're like, all right, now's a good time for me to start thinking about getting married.
Right.
And so that also, I think, is a product of where we're going as a society. Marriage is not really the end goal, if that makes sense. So I don't know. I would push back on the fact that just people getting married older is the reason, but I think there's a lot of reasons. It could be like one of the reasons.
Yeah.
But I think there's 50 different things that
of course
all kind of tie into
not
the fact that
there's
just one
there's
thing.
There's
I think
there's 1,001 reasons.
Bringing the whole conversation full circle, I think it's the responsibility of adolescence in decreasing and the image of marriage and what it actually means decreasing. And so it's like we're given less responsibility for a longer time, and we're going into marriages with the wrong perspective. And so therefore, when you put that into all into one equation, I mean, obviously it's not going to do very well. So
in the idea of love in the American culture is love is a feeling. Oh, I just fell in love. I can't control my feelings.
Right.
That is probably the worst definition of love
absolutely
out there. Because at its base, love is a choice. If love is a feeling, you can fall in and fall out. You have no control of your emotions. You're ruled by your emotions, and I think that is 100% false.
Right.
We are in control of our emotions. We can be. Yes, things can make us angry. But it's our choice to act on those emotions. I fully believe.
Yeah.
And so love is a choice, and it has to be a choice. And if love is a choice, and both parties understand that, then I think the marriage has a much greater chance of succeeding because you're choosing to love this person even if you don't feel like it sometimes.
For sure.
Mm-hmm. Now, another thing to go into, so if we look at like the founding fathers, their average age was like early 20s when they when they signed the Declaration of Independence. And look at our average 20-year-olds now and people that are going to college.
Yeah.
You pretty much get 4 years of like you're learning, but it's 4 years of excused craziness.
100%.
And so, like, even that right there, kicking someone's timeline, 4 years of growing up, like, sure, they're growing up in one sense, but are they becoming more responsible, or are they just like partying the whole time? Like, I don't know. Obviously, that's a case by case basis, but kids are getting, and adolescents and young adults are getting a free pass to kind of do their own thing longer and longer, and I mean, if that's what you want to do,
right,
go for it. Like, who am I to say you need to do this, or this? Like,
I'll say it. You need to be better.
Okay.
Do better.
Be better.
But like, if that's the type of life you want, you don't want to be married, whatever, like, get on with your life, quote unquote.
Yeah.
Then, like, good for you, go for it. But
right.
like, at the same time, how, for those of you that are going to be going into college, how can you guys use this college experience to be growing yourself and becoming more of the adult that you want to be? And so even in high school, how are you becoming more of the adult you want to be right now?
I would disagree with that a little bit. I don't think it's you go do your own thing. I mean, sure, we could say that, but that's not good. Men not being men in the true biblical masculine sense is I believe the reason why we have toxic masculinity, why it's even a thing. Yeah. Because when we look at the examples of the two greatest men, Adam before the fall and then Jesus, they are manly men. They are masculine in the truest sense, and none of it is toxic. Like, Adam had Eve as the helper. Well, when you look at the actual definition of helper, it's not lesser. It's a helper. Like, if I had to move a couch, I can't move it by myself. I need some other person. So I need help. That doesn't mean I'm better or the other person's weaker. It's equal. If it was just one of us, we couldn't move the couch.
Right.
It's a 50-50 at that point.
Right.
So it's not worse or better. It's just two.
Yeah.
And so it's not toxic. It just is what it is. But when you look at Jesus, he was loving, he was kind, he was patient, he was compassionate. All those are great, strong, masculine things. He led people. He spoke the truth, and at times he got violent. I'm not saying he was violence or that's necessarily a trait, but he stood up for what he believed in. Yeah. He stood up and took care of others, and at times he flipped some tables. He bobbed and weaved. He might have punched a guy out. I believe my Jesus punched a guy out, but I've had other people be like, you can't say that. I'm like, whatever, I don't care. He took the time and made a whip and started flipping tables, and yeah, anyways. But like, those are all good masculine things, and if we had more men that didn't take as long through adolescence who manned up, we wouldn't have as much chaos in the world as we do now.
Yeah.
We'd have people standing up. We'd have people making better decisions. We'd have people not, succumbing to sin, not doing all the times. We'd have people standing up for what's actually true and good and protecting people. And so I think the only reason why we have this toxic masculinity is because too many men have not lived in what it means to be masculine.
Right.
Yeah, I completely agree with everything you're saying, but where is it kind of like you said earlier, the only things you can control are yourself. And like, it's not my place to tell someone you need to live according to this way. Like, if they make the choice otherwise, like, they have to live in that choice. But
I mean,
it's their life to live.
Sure, it's their life to live, and given the opportunity, if they're out drinking, partying, and hey, you probably shouldn't do that. How is this benefiting you? Like, I think you should still, given the right opportunity, not go up to some random drunk stranger and be like, you're going to hell. No, obviously not. But with your friends, the people that you have relationships with, the people who won't, call you names, or who might actually listen to, who you have the relational equity with, to be like, hey, man, how is this actually benefiting your life?
Right.
Like, not, hey, you're wrong, stop this, but like, hey, when you're sober, let's talk logically, reasonably. How is spending all this money, how is spending all this time, how is doing all these things, how is it truly benefiting your life? Because the way I see it, it's only causing more stress, more anxiety, more pain and actual hurt in your life than it is benefiting you.
Right.
Can we talk about this?
Yeah.
Well, and that comes down to, I think, a Jesus thing too. And generally there's a deeper pain. And once you become real with that deeper issue, then you can kind of start taking the surface level stuff that you see, if that makes sense. But
but I think you still need to enter in through the surface stuff to get to the serious, to get to the spiritual, and then you work your way back out with
yes, completely agree.
Last observation, 1920-ish, so 100 years ago.
Okay.
A man was 13, 14 years old. He would take over his father's farm or go work in the field as a construction worker and start earning a living for himself. And then we had all these child labor laws put in place where enforced education through high school was instilled. And then the invention of the university came. And so now it's literally like students who are 14 have to go until they're 18. And I think it said I'm going to try to find all these statistics again and then link them in the description, but I think it said in 1960, 1 in 10 20-year-olds were in college, 1 in 10. And now, I don't know what it is right now, but I'm sure it's at least like 60-70% of 20-year-olds that are in college. And so why is there such an emphasis on education? Why is it so necessary now?
So, few things. I love history and love talking about it. So in the 1920s, there was horrible abuse of children working in terrible conditions. Like, you look up history and like why there are unions, why there are oversight from the government, why there are the OSHA, the Self and Health Advisory, whatever, Safety and Health Advisory, whatever. You know what I'm talking about.
Yes.
Like, they're in place because conditions were horrible.
Atrocious.
Because people were dying, people were getting maimed, kids were being exploited. So, like, all those things are in place because of how they were abused. So I agree with a lot of those. I think in 2020, I think a lot of those have gone to the nth degree, and it's bad now. But they were in place and are in place because people did use and abuse them. Okay. And so I am in full agreement of education and more education. But we tend to think and believe that education will fix everything. And to a certain extent, it will, but it also won't at the exact same time. Education is good. I will never fault anybody for trying to learn more, but there's a certain extent where if you're just educated, you'll understand. No, not necessarily. There is a point, I believe, we can be overeducated. But I think it is good for every student, every child, to get a good education. I mean, I have my own personal ideas of what should and shouldn't be taught, but I think we can do a better way to prepare students for actual real life as they graduate high school. But I think every kid should go to school from 0 to 18. I think our current junior high through high school is good. I think some twisting of the education, what they actually learn, it would be good. But I don't see that necessarily as the problem. But we should put more responsibility on children during that age, especially the teenage years, whether it's simple extracurricular activities, because you can learn a lot about roles, responsibilities, and authority from being on a sports team. I think there should be a heavier emphasis on working during that time. Just to get real life experience. Maybe it's flipping burgers at McDonald's. Maybe it's bagging groceries. But something. And then I also think I don't know. Those would be my. I think our current education. When we're talking about universities and life after high school. I think it's good to go to college and universities to learn more. I think our current education system's flawed after high school, but I think there should be a greater emphasis on trade schools, on not necessarily a traditional paper degree, but other degrees. I think this is more left field. I think more people. I think we should have a mandatory military for a year or two, because I think that would instill people with authority, roles, responsibility. There's so many good things that can come from that I think that would only benefit our society. But those are more out there ideas and beliefs, and I'd be willing to talk more about that, but I don't think this is time or place.
Yeah, I think comparing what college was in the 20s to what college is now is kind of comparing apples to oranges, because college back then, from what I've read and whatever, was a lot more just you're there to learn and then you get out. Now college is all about the experience.
Right.
And so yeah, I don't know if you could it's a direct correlation, but I do believe I think everyone should be educated in some way, whether that's college or going to trade school. That is completely, to me, that's almost like you just need to pick one, because not all college degrees are equal, and some college degrees are just pieces of paper that you spent several $100,000 on. And so, yeah, I would, if you're going to go to college, go to something that makes sense, or trade school, becoming an electrician. You can make great money doing stuff like that, especially really I know several of my friends didn't go to college, they just went right into trade school, and they're making way more money than most of my college friends are, because they have their degree now, and they're like, okay, what do I do with this degree? And it's like, well, that one's kind of useless. Why did you become an art major, whatever it was, or I don't know, whatever they are. But yeah, I do believe in obviously education, or some people, college isn't the thing and they just go and start business right afterwards. Right. For some people that's, but not every. I would just say, don't look at someone else and say, oh, I have to do it this way as well. Everyone's an individual, and everyone's path is different. Your path may be through college. Your path may be through trade school. Your path, maybe you have a business that you can take over from your parents. Perfect. Fully invest yourself in whatever your calling is. Yeah. And yeah, I think good things will happen.
Well, it's just funny too, because my dad never finished college, for example, and sometimes he talks to me, he's like, oh, I wish I would have had the experience of college. I wish I would have, had that time of carefree living. But you don't hear people that don't go to college. Maybe they do, but more often than not, they don't say, oh, I wish I would have gone to college for the education. They say, I wish I would have gone to college for the experience. And so I think it's totally distorted the reason why we go to college. It's about the big football games and trying to get into a D1 school and the excitement and the experience and the atmosphere of college, rather than, am I actually learning something and is this valuable to me?
And the idea of college, I don't know how old your dad is, but the college was different his age and past. It's different than it is now.
True.
Back then, the thing that made college important was the exchange and the comparison and the debate of differing ideas.
Right.
You don't get that as much now.
Right.
And so that experience that he may be talking about is different than what college experience is now.
Very true.
Because you had professors who challenged your point of view, no matter what it was.
Yeah.
Conservative, liberal, progressive, Democrat, Republican, whatever your idea. I believe the college should be, your professors should be able to challenge you on whatever point you have, whatever stance you have. That should be the point of a college professor, is no matter what, play devil's advocate to anyone and everyone.
Yep.
To challenge your ideas. And if it makes it change your beliefs, awesome. If it makes you more resolute in your beliefs, awesome. But the point of college, and my idea, is supposed to challenge you on all those things or expose you to all of those things. So the idea, maybe I think your dad may be kind of viewing it through that lens and not our lens where, Let's go experience some parties and
yeah.
goofing off and dorm
Yeah.
life. You're like, no, you don't need any of that in your life. Well, that's
Yeah.
ridiculous.
And don't mistake us for saying if you do go to college, you can't have any fun. Like if you're gonna
No,
be there,
I'm
like,
saying that anyone who goes to college is dumb. No, I'm just joking. I'm just joking.
like
Learn how to be-
obviously, like we're not
higher
saying,
higher education is good.
yeah, you can't. We're not saying you can't have a good time, but just know why you're going to college. Are you
Right.
going to college to have a good time? Because you can have a good time for not $100,000, or are you going to educate yourself? So
I've had a
That is
good
phenomenal point. By
I've
the
had
way.
I've had a great time with 1250 at a golf course, man. It's
yeah, you don't.
Yeah.
If you're gonna have, if you just want to have a good time in your 20s,
Think
like
about that.
don't spend $100,000.
Or go to work for a trade and say, I'm going to set aside $100,000 in 4 years to just have fun. Imagine the places,
that would be intense, man.
The
imagine
vacation
the
you
places
could-
you
yeah,
could
it-
go.
you
Yeah.
could
The
easily
things you could
travel the
do.
entire world and still have 50 grand in the bank.
Oh, yeah.
Literally.
And you like be gone
you
for
could-
like 2 years traveling the world and still have
Yes.
50 grand in the bank.
You could spend 12 grand a year for 4 years and then put 50 grand into a house after 4 years.
Yeah. Insane. Insane.
Don't go to college, anyone.
That's what if you're still here listening to us, thank you. But the takeaway is don't go to college.
Spend $100,000 in 4 years not in college.
Yep.
That's it.
Thank you for listening.
Thank you for coming to our TED Talk.
Yeah.
Thank you, everyone, for watching. Thank you, Dustin. Thank you, Anthony, for your insight. I hope that this in some way was beneficial to you, and I will be praying that God uses this in your life. Thank you all again for watching, and I will see you next week. See ya.